set up for a wild finish in the West, where only 3 games separate the current 3 seed from the 8. With Anthony Davis out of his mind lately, the Pelicans have put together 7 straight wins. OKC's won 4 of 5, but they've dropped to 7th as the night begins. The Thunder will hit the floor in Phoenix a little later on. And remarkably, despite trading away Chris Paul and Blake Griffin over the last year, the Clippers are still in the hunt, just a half game out of the 8 spot. They'll entertain the Knicks tonight in Los Angeles. Significant injuries figure to have an impact on the standings down the stretch as well, guys. New Orleans has figured out, at least for the short term, how to win without DeMarcus Cousins. LaMarcus Aldridge went down Wednesday night with an ankle sprain. He's day-to-day, while Kawhi Leonard, who still only played 9 games, is working out at the Spurs facility. That's news, and apparently getting closer to returning from his mysterious quad injury. Meanwhile, Jimmy Butler is likely out for the rest of the regular season after surgery on his right meniscus. May return for the playoffs if they can hang on. And the Thunder won't have Andre Robertson the rest of the way because of his knee injury. So as you look at these guys, all really good players in their own way, which one stands out as the most significant loss for his team?
Well, for me, it's probably DeMarcus Cousins. I felt that if the New Orleans Pelicans, who were playing great basketball up until the time of his injury, and were starting to figure out how those 2 guys, Anthony Davis and DeMarcus, play off one another, I thought they had an opportunity when they entered the playoffs to really show a different style to the rest of the Western Conference and perhaps, make some noise deep into the playoffs, regardless of where they finish, 5th or 6th. To me, that was a real significant loss.
Yeah, I thought it was really significant that Alvin Gentry, with the players obviously going along, made that adjustment, wound up, it's not easy to have Anthony Davis and Cousins on the same team, 2 bigs the way they are, talented as they are, and make that whole thing blend. And you said it, that they figured it out. They had it going. It was all on an upswing before he went down. But I'll throw another name out, and that's Jimmy Butler. I don't know, and I'm hoping they do, but is Minnesota strong enough? Because remember, Thibs had shortened the rotation down.
Right.
All right, and you got the 2 young guys, Wiggins, Cat, that kind of look to Butler. He's the leader of that team. He's the voice. He's the guy down the end who's got the ball in his hands.
No question, yeah.
To take and make big shots. So now this may force somebody else to mature more quickly, to step up. I would think Taj Gibson would take some of that leadership responsibility on, and hopefully these young guys down the stretch understand how important every game is. We can't afford to give one away.
Well, I tend to agree. Minnesota is on track to end the longest playoff drought in the NBA, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that they hang on, considering how tight things are in the Western Conference right now. How are the LA Clippers still in this thing? Considering what they traded away over the last year, you're talking about Chris Paul, a Hall of Famer, Blake Griffin, who's certainly on track for that sort of career end. All the injuries over the course of the season as well. Danilo Gallinari is in and out on a day-to-day basis. You don't know if he's going to play. He's out again at the moment. It's remarkable. You've seen guys in the starting lineup that weren't in the NBA at the beginning of the season. How are the Clippers still involved in a playoff race?
I remember saying back in the beginning of the year when Chris Paul was gone, I said, you know what, I think Doc Rivers is going to enjoy training camp. It's going to be a whole different atmosphere, attitude, young guys, a lot of energy, and I thought that was going to be a really positive thing for them. And then all of a sudden, injuries after injury after injury, and you're going like, I don't know if these guys can hang around in the conference.
I'm sorry, I didn't even mention Patrick Beverley.
That's right.
Who's been out virtually all season.
Kind of heart and soul of the team that he's been on. But they've kind of resurrected themselves. They got some bodies back, made a move here or there. They're right there, the verge of coming back into the playoffs.
Yeah, and sometimes you're reminded that this is really a team game, and we see examples of this around the league. I mean, we were just talking about Toronto and the fact that they're getting more ball movement and people movement and sharing the basketball. You look at what's happened with the Washington Wizards here of late over the last 14 games when Wall has been out, and how they've really come together as a team. And to me, that's what the LA Clippers really are. And sometimes when you have injuries, that roster gets shortened. You know, players know that they're going to have minutes and they need to play a certain way to perform at a high level. You know, and you put that together with some excellent coaching with Doc Rivers, and this is what you get. You get a team that is overachieving. Their summation of the parts is greater than what you would expect on paper, and they're in a playoff race. And I love stories like this because we really are in an individual player league for the most part, because in the end of the day, if you're going to win a championship, you got to have great players.
Got to have superstar players.
You got to have superstar players. So we can't expect that from the Clippers, but I just love what's happening in L.A.
They're not burdened by expectations this year. Nobody really thought that they'd be capable of a deep run, certainly. And it, not to be discounted is maybe this is a happier place to be right now. You heard all the stories about Chris Paul and Blake Griffin and the tension that has existed there over the years, and that's obviously no longer the case. Thunder are an interesting team. They've been fascinating from the get-go since they put together the three stars. They're now adding Corey Brewer to the mix, played for Billy Donovan at Florida and bought out by the Lakers. Is it enough to boost their bench significantly for a deeper playoff run?
Well, we don't know, but of all the teams in the West, if you were to start the playoffs and start to speculate who's going to be the surprise team, in my mind, the Oklahoma City Thunder could be that team, just simply because of the level of talent that they have on the basketball team.
Right.
But listen, they do need a higher level wing, and perhaps Corey Brewer will at least add something offensively to their wing core. But if you look at one team, should they make the playoffs, that could surprise somebody just simply based on their talent level, it's the Oklahoma City Thunder to me.
I mean, they're a load for sure.
Here's the good things about this team. They have three guys any given night can get 30 to 40 points between them, the big three. Early on, they had lost a lot off their bench. Oladipo, who could be a candidate for most improved player in the league, who is an all-star now, and Sabonis, who I think a lot of people didn't realize how good this guy is, would pound you on the glass with that second unit alongside Adams when they played him together. They were a lot. They got rid of those guys in the trade deal that they did. So I was going, this bench has been weakened so much. But where they've gotten better is they're a much better defensive team.
Yes.
And the guys that they brought in have bought in that Billy Donovan wanted to become a better defensive team for whatever, he realized obviously what they lost in the deals that they had. They lost one key guy to injury, their best defender.
Right.
And Robertson is not going to be back for this season.
But to me, their bigger problem is offensively in terms of the depth, the minutes where those guys aren't on the floor. Their bench is last in the Western Conference in scoring. I don't know if Corey Brewer answers that.
Do you have to
question.
play a lot of guys in the playoffs?
You don't have to play a ton of guys, no. No, but you know how it works. Your bench is going to win a game for you somewhere along the way if you're making a deep run. You disagree?
I'm just saying that you got three guys who can get you 30 on a given night.
That's absolutely true. So high-end talent is a good thing.